Your Holiness, on behalf of the Finnish Tibetan Cultural Association and the other organizers, I have the honor to welcome you to this afternoon session. I can confirm you that your visits are always a source of inspiration to us. This is your 5th visit to our country. They are also a challenge to us organizers and to the whole Finnish society. But I can see that with every visit the response is better and higher. And I also wish to welcome the audience, which is bigger, larger than ever in your presence in Finland. Jag vill välkomna alla till den här tillställningen. Tervetuloa kaikki tähän suomalais-tiibetiläisen kulttuuriseuran järjestämään tilaisuuteen, jossa hänen pyhyytensä Dalai Lama tulee puhumaan aiheesta myötätunto. So your topic today will be compassion, and I give the word to you. Thank you.
So, firstly, I want to know, those people who attend this morning's talk, raise hand. So, okay. Then, as I mentioned this morning, I have two commitments, lifelong, and particularly the rest of my life, two commitments. One commitment is promotion of religious harmony. That this morning I mentioned some extent. Then now this, my talk, entirely secular way to promote human values. That means human compassion, sense of concern for others' well-being. That I usually describe as a consider secular way to promote these values. When I use the word secularism, does not mean disrespect religions, but rather respect all religions, and no preference this religion, that religion. So according to Indian tradition, secularism is to respect all religions and also respect non-believers. So secularism means very positive. No sort of the meaning of negative towards religion. Perhaps I think during French Revolution and Bolshevik Revolution may sort of carry the secularism, some kind of anti-religion, maybe. But that actually not against religion. Of course, any sensible person, the real sort of religion is practice of compassion, love, respect. So any sensible person, how can be against that? So then there's some sort of element in the meaning of secularism, a little bit sort of negative towards religion. That is religious institution, religious authority. I think both cases, French Revolution as well as the Bolshevik Revolution. So the ruling class, the elite ruling class, there are sort of extreme exploitation or bullying poorer section of people. So they also receive some kind of sort of moral support from religious organization. So therefore, when movements start against the existing system, which is very much supported by the religious authority, then naturally you have to be against it. So that organization, right? That institution. So in any way, when I use the word secularism, is according to Indian tradition, Indian belief. So now, this my talk, I will talk almost as if I am non-believer. Except this monk's monk's dress, in shaved head. But many of these police also shave head. So not necessarily consider as a shaved hand religious person wear. So then, now I'm talking here on the level of I'm just one human being. Not a religious person, or not Asian. He's same human being. Mentally, emotionally, even physically, same. I noticed, although very few Tibetans here. Yesterday I met a few Tibetans and some friends of Tibet. So I jokingly asked them, how many Tibetan, how many sort of Finnish, and how many sort of, what's the day, half. So one parent Tibetan, one parent European. So their children is something half. So they can marry, they can produce very beautiful children. That is the indication. We are same human being. This is physically same human being. So we mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. So you should not consider this moment or someone, a Buddhist speaks, should not think that way. I also, you see, not thinking you are something different people, different culture, different faith. Yes, there's sort of difference, different faiths, different sort of language, different culture, different races there. The fundamental level, we are same human being. Nearly 7 billion human beings, all are same. Now important, all human beings on this planet, everyone want happy life. Nobody wants disturbances or problems. And then more important, from the birth, every human being has same right to achieve happy life. Very purpose of our life, I believe, happiness, joyful life. When I use the word happiness, not necessarily so pleasure feeling, even suffering sometimes bring more deeper satisfaction. So, when I use the word happiness, is more, I think, in the sense of satisfaction, some kind of the feeling of satisfaction, even some physical painful sort of experience. Sometimes, if you carry certain work, and through that, you may find some physical difficulties, but you get sense of satisfaction. So, my sort of reason, purpose of our life could be happiness or satisfaction. The reason, see, there is no guarantee what will happen tomorrow, or even this evening, what will happen? No guarantee. And no question next year or next decade. No guarantee you get maximum happiness. No. But we are hoping something could be good. Well, even though today some difficulties, but after some time we may overcome these problems. So that kind of hope sustains our life. One individual completely lost hope, then that very mental attitude shortened their life. Once you completely lost hope, then depressions, even possible suicide. So our life depends on hope. Hope means something good, happiness or satisfaction. So therefore, I feel, very purpose of our life is joyfulness, happiness. And then, other hand, nobody wants trouble. I think here, in this hall, perhaps there's a few thousand people here, I think everyone, as soon as wake up in morning, I think nobody have the feeling, now today I should face some problems. I don't think. Even people who face some problems, then at least every morning, each morning, feel, oh, today I should have less problem. Right? I think that can come. Oh, I wish less problem. So nobody wants problem. However, many problems which we face is actually our own creation. So now think. All good things or bad things comes through its own causes and conditions. In the causes, our action. We behave well, good result comes. We behave badly, or fight with other people, or too much alcohol, or tell lie, or steal, murder, you get problem. That problem not all certain come, but because of your own wrong action. So other hand, more friendly sort of atmosphere, very happy sort of moment. That comes through friendship. So you treated others nicely, so they appreciate you. So develop friendship. So that friendship brings happy atmosphere. So both actions ultimately lead to motivation. Anger, hatred, jealousy, suspicion, distrust creates more negative action. I think too much sort of distrust or suspicion, fear, then you may rely more and more on alcohol. Isn't it? So result, even your physical also you see damage. Physical health, damaging. Right. Like that. So the more compassion, sort of motivation, or sense of love, sense of respect brings friendship. So all these harmful actions, or helpful action, positive action, ultimately related with emotion, or mind, or motivation. So when I say human value, mainly on the level of motivation, that level. So more positive, constructive emotions such as genuine compassion, love, that brings, firstly, inner peace. Inner peace provides you very important two things. One, with peace of mind, your mental sort of function very normal. Through that way, we can utilize our intelligence properly. When your mind much disturbed, your mental function may not go normal way. Under that circumstances, you cannot see the reality. Because the subject supposed to find out the thing, too much disturbed. Through that way, you can't see the reality. So through that way, you cannot get clear picture of the reality. This is one thing. Another, the positive result of calm mind is good health. Calm mind. Even though you still have a lot of problems, but calm mind at least can sort of retain your blood circulation these days. I think that's better. Just like that. It is simpler. And the bed is more clean. I don't like more ceremonial way. I don't like. And formality. I don't like. I really feel formality, too much formality, a ceremonial way is the additional barrier, close-buttoned, right? No use. I myself is grown in Potala as a Dalai Lama, or great spiritual leader of Tibet. Too much formality. I really fed up. When I was in Tibet, then American Life magazine, so they regularly receive. One time, I saw one picture of Queen of England. Of course, I respect, I admire. But in that picture, I think some ceremony, I think on ship, maybe military ship or something, navy ship or something. So, very formal Queen, and I think Prince Philip. But wind don't care about the formality. So some blowing wind, so the Queen's dress, like that. I think the cameraman, so took that opportunity, you see, wind blow, the Queen sort of dressed like that, then Queen stood in a very formal way. So I remember that picture very clearly in my mind. At one time in Peking, 1954, in the beginning of my visit there, one day, Indian mission, Indian ambassador came to see me in my hotel, or the government was a guest house. So some Chinese officials, and at that time, among my sort of entourage, some Tibetan officials, there are some who speak English, very good English. But then Chinese, the officials say, you should not sort of translate from Tibetan to English. Must do Chinese, from Tibetan to Chinese, Chinese to English. So they insist. So okay, that's no problem. That's okay. Then the Indian missions sit, and some Chinese officials. Then the very sort of solemn way, very solemn. Everybody sit very dignified. Then somehow one pot with some fruit, a topple. Then those Chinese officials at the beginning remain very solemn. Then they need, you see, because need one. People start to say, we should not do that.
They were on their knees trying to pick up the fruits which had fallen to the ground.
I really enjoyed that moment. So, the formality was sort of the because of the solemn sort of position. Foolish. After all, we are same human being, same emotion. What use such things? It's anyway hypocrisy. Not good. So in any way, so this is the treasure. That's a treasure.
Extra in interest. No.
These are just some things that I'm speaking on the side.
Okay. So
Side talk.
I'm quite expert wasting time talking such blah, 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 like that. So the main point is the warm-heartedness really brings immense benefit to one individual, in the family, through that way in the community. One way, warm-heartedness reduces destructive emotion. Another, warm-heartedness increases your self-confidence. With self-confidence, you can carry your conduct honestly, truthfully, openly, transparently. That brings trust from others. That brings genuine friendship. Human nature, we are social animals. We must have genuine cooperation, particularly now, today's world. Economy field, now global economy, there you need genuine cooperation, exploiting each other won't work. Genuine cooperation, equality or justice, very important. And then different religious tradition. In the past, different religious faith remain its own area, not much contact, isolated. But now no longer that. Whole world becoming something like one entity. So that small planet, blue planet, is actually multicultural, multiracial, multiracial, multi-faith. So, the reality itself now telling us you need more cooperation. So therefore, the basis, very basis of cooperation is trust. Trust there, friendship comes. Friendship there, genuine cooperation comes. Cooperation under fear, under sort of compulsory rule, it may teach us hypocrisy, showing something, thinking something different. So, the genuine trust, genuine friendship is really very important. So then, so that's power of compassion, individual level, family level, community level. Then, world peace, very much relevant, related on heartedness. The very basis of war is strong sort of concept, we and they. And then you take every advantage on them. Then eventually some conflict comes. And also exploit others. All these unfair things you see happen due to strong we and they. Something. So now today's reality, in order to develop genuine sort of sense of cooperation, we should consider the rest of the world is part of we. Just one big we. It's true. East needs West, West needs East, North needs South, South needs North. That's the reality. Different religious faith is secondary. Different sort of races, different colors are secondary. The important is we are all remain same planet. Then ecological problem. Also, beyond the national boundary. Modern economy, also beyond the national boundary. So we really need a sense of global responsibility. That ultimately leads with compassion. Then all religious the essentials of practice is same, compassion. So now, question, how can develop compassion? There are two levels of compassion. One level of compassion, biological factor. Like animal, you see those species of mammals, you see whose youngster, they are survival entirely depend on others' care, others' affection. Now they are biologically the important rule of affection or compassion. This biological factor. I often telling or sharing with people, and also my own curiosity. Like some, I think most mammals like cats, dogs, and many birds, they are youngster, and their survival entirely based on their parents' care, particularly mother's care. So, strong sense of affection. Affection brings a sense of energy, taking care of their youngster. Then, there's some animals like butterfly and also some turtles. Once the mother laid down egg, then left. They never meet their youngster. So youngster, their survival entirely depend on their own effort. So because of such, nature creates such. So I don't think they have the capacity showing affection. So in Hawaii and some other places, I actually request carry some investigation, such sort of turtle, the mother turtle, and her the offspring put together, then watch whether they have the ability to show affection each other. I don't think. Even I think mother turtle may eat her own youngster. So these are biological factors. The youngster whose survival depends on others' care, then affection there. Affection brings their energy to take care. So biological differences are quite strong, quite obvious. One time, my flight, I think from Tokyo to United States, West Coast. So night flight. So one couple, quite youthful, quite young. So they have two children. One very small, I think 2-3 years old. One around 6-7 years old. So at the beginning, the elder one running here and there, shouting. Then gradually, the elder one sleep. The young one still crying or something. So not sleep. not same. And then at the beginning, both parents taking care. Follow their children here and there. Then about late night, about midnight, the father just slept. No showing botheration. The mother, whole night, taking care about that, their children. The next morning, when we reach, I think Los Angeles or San Francisco or something, I noticed the mother's eye become very red. So, both parents have some immense affection to their children, but biologically, mother's affection is more stronger. My own case, my mother really wonderful sort of woman, uneducated, illiteracy, illiterate, just farming her mother, farmer's mother, our mother, but very kind. All her children never saw our mother's face, angry face, never saw. Very kind. So my father, very short temper. Few cases, I also get some blessing from him. Like that. So therefore, biological factor is something very important. These differences not come through religion, not come through law, but biological factor. So the seed of compassion, everybody, every human being have that seed. Because as soon as we're born, we receive immense affection from our mother. So that experience absorbs every part of our self, body self. So, whole rest of the life, that experience, in deep insight, that experience really makes differences. I'm quite sure now here, few thousands of the people here, and outwardly, everybody very smart. But deep inside, those people who receive maximum affection at our early age, I think deep inside, those people are much more happier, much more sort of calm. And those individuals who receive less affection at that sort of period, deep inside, little hope and sense of insecurity. So such people, difficult to show affection to others because you yourself receive less. So the affection, the early period, really makes differences whole life. So I usually tell people certain amount of my sort of compassion. Of course, through Buddhist training, also you see tremendous effect, but real seed of that affection I learned, I received from my mother. So we, everybody, you see, have the experience, the affection of our one's own mother, like that. So that's biological factor. Now, second level of affection, of compassion. That's through training. Now here, various religious tradition also makes important role. And also, secular way, we can promote the compassion. Now that's the second level of compassion, and because of the biological sort of factor sort of compassion, there is differences. Compassion, biological factor, is oriented towards others' attitude, others' action. So therefore, usually we can keep affection towards our friend, someone who is nice to us. We develop a sense of concern for their well-being. Those people who create trouble for you, instead of sense of affection, but sense of anger, usually it happens because that kind of sort of affection is oriented others' attitude. Now that affection take as a seed, but then use reasons and the long-term, short-term sort of benefit and the pros and cons of these things, affection, these things. Then you can develop the sort of sense of concern of others' well-being, further sort of expand. Then towards all sentient being, all humanity. So here, first level, oriented others' attitude. The second compassion, not oriented others' attitude, but people themselves. For example, when we take care of oneself, not account oneself nice to me. No. Simply, I want happiness. I do not want suffering. So, I myself taking care. Right. Sort of self-cherishing. Self-cherishing. That's right. So here, some kind of self-cherishing, not oriented one's own attitude to oneself. Nothing to do with that. So that kind of sort of affection now can extend. Others, also like me, do not want suffering, want happiness, joyfulness. They also have the right. So awareness, that factor, then extend sense of concern, of cherishing, cherishing others, extend that way. So here in the West, some people, they say self-hatred. That really, you see, they love first oneself. Then that same sort of attitude can extend to others. Those people, self-hatred, impossible to develop genuine love and affection to others. So first love oneself, then that extend to others. That's the way. So the first level, oriented, others' attitude. Second level of compassion, not the attitude, but the people themselves, or sentient beings themselves. So it makes differences. Their attitude, disregard, doesn't matter. Someone, very negative attitude towards you, but okay. But as far as they, human being, sentient being, they also deserve affection. So that second level of compassion comes only through training, use sort of human intelligence, and pros and cons are positive, negative things, analyze. Through that way, you can develop firm conviction. The open, because the warm-heartedness, open heart is truly immense benefit to oneself, to others, to the society, to the family. The negative, really self-destruction, like that. So that kind of, through that kind of awareness, you can sort of develop the compassion level, biological level of compassion. That's what we are. Enhance it in second level. Then also another thing, the compassion, biological factor, that is much mixed with attachment. The second level of compassion, without attachment. Once attachment mixed, it becomes biased. Genuine sense of concern of others' well-being without attachment, that's really unbiased. So these are nothing to do with religion. Of course, Buddhist psychology mentions these things. We can take Buddhist psychology, but not as a part of Buddhist sort of practice. No. Like that. Now, scientific finding. People who have sort of more stronger sort of compassionate feeling, their physical condition is better. Now, according to my own sort of experience, now last 30 years, I had a series of discussion with scientists. Initially, my own out of curiosity, but then later, both sides, Tibetan, Buddhist sort of the scholars, and modern scientists, both sides now finds some mutual benefit, more dialogue. That also not Buddhism. I always make clear, the Buddhist literature can divide three parts. Literature or content in these vast literature, we can divide three groups. Number one group, science, about matters, about emotions, about mind. So external sort of science, internal science. So modern science, external field, very much advanced. Internal science is concerned, very limited. So, the information from Indian tradition, including Buddhist tradition, the science of inner science, science of mind, is immense of benefit to modern science. So we discussed last 30 years. So now we both appreciate the mutual benefit. So, as a result, more and more scientists now really paying more serious attention about human emotion and how to tackle human emotion. And human emotion or human mental state, very, very important sort of matter for good health and also healthy society, like that. So some university, like Wisconsin University, and then Emory University, and then Stanford University, then some other few universities. They actually, last few years, they actually carry some sort of experiment, actually on sort of some cases students, some cases some volunteer people. They actually carry some sort of experiment. The few weeks sort of training of mind or some kind of more sort of thinking about compassion. Each day, 1 hour, 30 minutes like that. Then after 3 weeks, or first day, before they start that kind of experiment, they check blood pressure and stress of amount, because of stress, and then some other sort of test. I can't remember their sort of terminology. They test some kind of sort of saliva. No? So they have to do something to make differences. So they test before they sort of start their sort of experimental sort of training. Then after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, again they check. Blood pressure reduced. Amount of stress reduced. The person becomes much calmer. And their social sort of contact also becomes better. So they already found some positive result through training of mind. Not talking about next life or heaven or these things. Just simply dangerous life. To improve dangerous life, happier, calm. So they found training of mind is really useful. So then they say, this is some sort of scientists have a sort of view, constant fear, anger, hatred, actually eating our immune system. Other hand, keep compassionate mental attitude is very sort of important factor to sustain our immune system. Sometimes even increasing. So these are the reasons it is really worthwhile paying more attention about compassion, about human affection. That I consider human real value. No differences of religious faith, or even if you're non-believer, you have same potential. And no differences of social background, rich and poor, no differences. And many problems which you are facing, firstly, the gap, rich and poor, global level, national level, this very serious matter, we have to, I think in Finland, maybe this gap less, isn't it? Rich and poor gap, Finland may be better, isn't it? Less. And England, America, and also India, now China, socialist country, suppose socialist country, huge gap, rich and poor. The millionaires increasing, but poor people still remain poor. And on top of that, too much sort of corruption. Really, very, very sort of troublesome. Really, very bad. So these ultimately, and then ecological problem. These also is related with our mental attitude. Too much selfish, short-sighted, attachment, greed, create these problems. More open mind, or sense of responsibility, responsibility to well-being of global interest. Then these things certainly will reduce. So, world crisis, man-made crisis, very ultimately related with self-centered, narrow-minded, blind thinking. So we have to point out, in order to create healthy world, healthy body, please pay more attention about our inner values, irrespective of whether believer or non-believer. Oh, that's my talk. Power of compassion. So those people who feel some interest about these topics, then pay more attention and further sort of, further sort of investigate by yourself and experiment. Then those people who feel these points are not much interest, you prefer your own daily life, more selfish, more sort of greed, then okay, your own right. Thank you. Now question.
What advice can Your Holiness offer for parents who wish to bring up their children to be caring and compassionate people?
I think you know better. I am monk. No experience. How to raise children healthy way. But one thing, as I mentioned, I myself my own sort of experience. My mother provides us maximum affection, so that really brings some positive sort of impact. So therefore, those parents, please give maximum care, maximum affection to your children, and if possible, you spend more with your children. You spend more time with your children. That's, I think, important. Then meantime, I think in the West, I think already, so every sort of opportunity give them to grow their own, initiative. That I think very, very important. So otherwise, I don't know. And then some cases, you may also need a little, this morning I mentioned, sometimes on naughty children, don't listen to your reasons or your affection. And sometimes you may need a little harsh method. That I don't know, that you have to judge. Yes.
You have talked about the importance of spiritual or moral awakening, but can compassion in reality be effective without spiritual awakening?
I already mentioned, I noticed among some non-believer, there are people who really dedicated their own life for the benefit of others. There are people. And the animal, they have no religion, but it is they really showing affection to their own companion or their own sort of youngster. Sometimes even they willing to sacrifice their own life for the protection of their youngster. So it does not come from religion, not from religious faith. So, biological factor, then further sort of analyzed or reasoning, you can get full conviction. Altruistic mind is immense sort of beneficial. Then you can change your way of thinking, your way of life. Then I think another sort of important thing, I think this morning I mentioned, no matter one religion, something very sort of, important religion or the great religion on this planet, it never be universal. So compassion, this must be universal. So this secular way to educate these values naturally can be universal. So I feel there is a way, without involved religious faith, we can develop moral ethics, secular ethics, through education, like that. Then next.
More than 1.5 billion people on Earth are living in extreme poverty, and 1 billion people suffer from hunger and malnutrition. As we all know, wealth and material well-being is not equally distributed. What is your opinion of the global poverty problem and unequal distribution of monetary wealth?
Yes, that's why, as far as social economy theory is concerned, I am Marxist. Because I admire, I agree fully, the Marxist economy theory mentioned or take serious concern about equal distribution. So that's a moral principle. Whereas capitalism only concerned about how to make profit, only increase money, not thinking equal distribution. So as I mentioned earlier, we must pay attention seriously, how to reduce this gap, rich and poor. It's a very, very important matter. This gap, rich and poor, is not only morally wrong, but practically also source of problem. And then I think our economy system, particularly those developed nations. The other day in Estonia, I mentioned in their capital, I noticed less car. Of course, population also is smaller. I think their lifestyle, I think the public transportation, from early morning, I noticed from my window, some public transportation, they are already coming and going like that. Then private car, in early morning, almost none. So I expressed that. It seems your economy should be, their sort of lifestyle is a little bit different than like Delhi or San Francisco, New York or Washington. Overcrowded cars, almost 24 hours goes like that. So that really brings question. That kind of lifestyle really can sustain till next century, to the 2nd century, I doubt. Population increase, and each owned one car, like India and China. Combine these two nations, over, I think, almost 2.5 billions, right? Then 2.5 as a 2.5 billions car. Unthinkable. So I think our lifestyle and economy must be sustainable sort of economy system. And luxurious way of life, I think must change. That's how I feel. But of course, it is up to individual. I cannot give some kind of order or something. No, it is up to you. But you must think from wider perspective. That's my view.
World
And
leaders.
on the other hand, socialism sounds very good, but everywhere the socialist system not very successful. Everywhere. I think India, of course China, under the leadership of communist socialist system, now become worst kind of capitalism, very bad. Then India, socialist system with democracy, that also not very successful. Now a lot of gaps, huge gap, rich and poor, and a lot of corruptions. So I really don't know. When I first came, the former Eastern European countries, after they got freedom, I expressed, of course I'm not an economist, I don't know, but simply I just merely sort of one wish I expressed at that time. I visited then Czechoslovakia on the invitation of President Havel. So there I expressed Now maybe time come to think, to research, to carry research, some synthesized sort of economy system, some positive sort of factor in the social system keep. Then the Western market-oriented sort of economy, the capitalist system, take some good things. So maybe time come to create new economy sort of theory. But I don't know. So at that time I expressed, well, just like that. Then, next question.
If the majority of the world leaders were women, would it help us to have more sustainable values?
I think I do. I feel that. You know, I often see expressing the women, female, biologically more potential of compassion. According some scientists, they experiment, and their finding is the male and the female observe or watch someone sort of painful experience or movie picture or something like that. So then response from the two persons, one male, one female, the female side response is much stronger because the biologically female more sensitive to others' pains. So sometimes I tell the people, in human history, the war hero means big murderer. So most of these war hero male. Even I think the butcher, I think most cases male. So I think fishing, I think maybe same, male and female. Particularly like Japanese female, I think they found this fishing. Otherwise, you see the real sort of butcher work, I think most cases carried by male. So now, more important thing is, I feel in ancient time, I think millions of years ago, in human society, no concept of leader. Everybody equal. Work together, whatever they get, something, they share together. Then eventually, farming system developed, and also population increase. So some mischievous people comes. So the concept of leadership comes. So at that time, no rule of education. Therefore, physical strength is the real sort of quality, criteria of the leadership. So male dominance then comes. And then eventually education develops. Education brings more equal, male and female. Of course, female equal get equal sort of opportunity to education. And then education brings more equal. Now, not only that, today, I think the modern education mainly oriented materialistic sort of development, materialistic value. Much less sort of information about warm-heartedness. So that is something lacking in modern education system. So now time is come. We must make every effort to promote human compassion in that respect, female, biologically, more sort of, what's the potential? So the female should take more active role regarding promotion of human compassion. This is my view. In India, in America, in other European countries, last sort of several years, I always used to see making some kind of appeal to female. So one time, Mary Robinson, right? Mary Robinson, one time in Canada, also some Nobel laureates and some talk, and I mentioned these things. So she described after that, after she heard my sort of the talk, then she described me feminist Dalai Lama. So he mentioned like that, he described like that. So in any way, that's sort of my view. So I think the leadership, eventually, more female, some female very exceptional, aggressive. So generally, I think female, as I mentioned earlier, more sort of more potential of affection. So therefore, more and more leadership. I think a few years ago, I was in Brussels. I think Brussels or Strasbourg, the European Parliament sort of meeting. At the Parliament meeting, I expressed that, and because at that time, among the member of the European Parliament, many women is there. So I really sort of encouraged the way. Encouraged. I felt encouraged. So I expressed that. So I think could be some positive effect. No? I think authoritarian sort of regime, I think very few women, very few. I think very few sort of female, like that. Yes, now next question.
Within the world of business, how can one best put into practice relative and ultimate bodhicitta?
What's that? I think in not necessarily the bodhicitta. There is some particular term in the Buddhist tradition. So bodhicitta is the Buddhist sort of the terminology. Some kind of altruistic mind. As every field, every human activities, the altruistic attitude is very much relevant. Then the ultimate because of the bodhicitta. According to Madhyamaka philosophy, Madhyamaka thinker, the real meaning of emptiness is interdependency. So since things are interdependent nature, so there is no independent absolute reality. So simply absence of independent existence, that's the emptiness. So real meaning of emptiness is interdependency. So that view is, although come from Buddhist literature, Buddhist philosophical sort of view, but can apply every field. International relations, ecology problem, economy problem, even health problem. The interdependency view brings holistic view. So it's very useful. So sometimes I telling some of my Muslim sort of friends, as far as faith is concerned, they are follower of Islam. But some idea from Buddhist tradition, like interdependency, it is very useful to Islam practitioner also. Sometimes I usually mention like that. So I think in business, the secular sort of field, so that concept of interdependency, really brings the attitude, look every event more holistically. That's very, very important. Obviously, nobody wants a problem, but many problems, due to our approach, become unrealistic approach, lack of holistic. So we sometimes unexpected sort of side effect, negative side effect happen. These things due to lack of holistic view. So there, the Buddhist concept interdependency is something relevant. So should not sort of consider part of the practice of Buddhism, but simply take some idea from the Buddhist tradition. That's okay. Next question.
Human population is growing all the time. Where do all these new individuals come to the cycle of suffering?
That's a philosophical question. Mysterious question. I think only sort of authentic answer comes from God. From Buddhist viewpoint, of course, limitless world. So sometimes we take rebirth as some other planet, some other universe, some other cosmology, where? Cosmology is where?
Some other universe.
Universe. And some people, some sentient being, from there take rebirth, take a new life on this planet. That is Buddhist viewpoint. But that is not much relevant to our day-to-day life. Don't bother about that.
Can people practice Dharma and take refuge in the three jewels if they believe in God?
My view is, initial stage, like sort of early stage of study, more subject. Then gradually specialize on particular field. Like that, initially, I think many Hindus, many Indians, they also respect or sort of faith towards Buddha and also Hindu gods. So that's okay. And this is, I think from the Buddhist viewpoint, even you see, the Jesus Christ or Muhammad can be manifestation of Buddha. So we can respect, not only respect, but some kind of sort of faith. I think can be. Then from the monolithical sort of viewpoint, you can take the view Buddha also manifestation of Jesus Christ. Since everything God's creation, so Buddha must be God created. That way. So if you look from wider perspective, but not much problem. So I think at the initial level, I think we can consider someone faith towards many religions, and that's possible. That's okay. So long practice, so long sort of pay more seriously, pay attention seriously about practice, love, forgiveness, these things. Then all carry same teaching. Then eventually specialize. Then I think concept of absolute truth, God, and then theory of relative, I think difficult go together. More serious level, then is some difficulties. But then I think specialize on so and so line, like that. That's my view. Then,
is there compassion without suffering? If there were no suffering, would compassion exist? Does this mean that
yes.
we need suffering to raise this feeling of compassion? No.
The very meaning of compassion is sense of concern of others' well-being. Because there is suffering, so they develop the sense of concern of their well-being. So if there is also no suffering, it's best. But suffering is there. But yeah. So I think that question is rather, I think, silly question. Okay, now next question.
Has the world come to a turning point?
Turning point.
No.
I think so. I think turning point for better. This is my view. When we judge last century, 20th century, that 20th century, I believe, the most century of human history, I feel. Firstly, a lot of new findings or new inventions, new invention in the scientific field and technology field, a lot of sort of development. And meantime, that century, I think the greatest number of people killed through violence, through war, through civil war, and also starvation, like that. So through war alone, some historians say 20th century killed more than 200 million of people through violence, killed. So that century became century of violence. Now later part of 20th century, every part of the world, I think the feeling of fed up about violence. Disgust, violence, everywhere. Then in early part, concerned people really pay much attention about nuclear weapon. Now gradually, many people really feel very bad about nuclear weapons. So the anti-nuclear weapons movement, I think started mainly from Japan, because they themselves suffer 2 atom bombs. So there's some kind of anti-nuclear weapons, very strong. And then already, like some concerned importance of government, now already seriously thinking step by step denuclearize policy. Wonderful. Then also, the early period of century, 20th century, nobody talked about ecology problem, importance of ecology. Now later part of the century, many people now get a lot of awareness in the importance of ecology. That also healthy side. Then in early part, people simply think about material development. Now, later part of 20th century, even among the scientists, began to feel the scientific knowledge about matters alone not sufficient. Now we must take more serious research about mind. And also those brain specialists, brain scientists, or neuron scientists, they begin sort of pay more interest about mind, emotion, these things. So these also, I think, a very positive sign. So, in previously, science and spirituality is simply two separate things. Now, like I think the concept of quantum physics, and then also you see these, because of the brain scientists or these things, then gradually these two things closer. So these are, I think, positive sort of change. So this is the 21st century, now continuation of the later part of 20th century. Basically, I think I'm sort of hopeful. Humanity become more mature out of sort of tremendous sort of suffering, pains, through war, through violence. So it become more mature. So still important, we should not take for granted. Up to now, we simply should go this way, so future also should be okay. That I think too much for that. Complete senses are so we should not neglect. So think more serious. The root of these problems. I think the beginning of 21st century, some problems, including terrorism. These things, I think, symptom of past negligence or past mistake. So we have to think more seriously the current problem. What's the real root causes? Then accordingly, we have to change these things. We have to make some new effort. I feel more effort in education field for educate warm-heartedness. That I feel something very important. So then I think then meantime our population also I think should have some sort of population control. That also is necessary. This moment now nearly 7 billion. So next 10 years, 20 years, 8, 10 billion. Then I think very difficult. So we have to think seriously these things. Sometimes I jokingly tell him, the best way, non-violent way of birth control is more monks, more nuns. Not only Buddhist, but also Catholic monks, nuns there. So like that. That's the best way to control population. Non-violent way. Yes. Now last question.
What can you recommend to Western Buddhist practitioners who have not yet found a guru? What is the best way to practice Dharma?
Not yet.
So,
I think there is a story. One famous Tibetan master, I think 11th century. Some of his disciples, at the time of his death, his disciple with tears asked him And up to now, we receive teaching from you. Now you no longer with us. So, where we should go approach? We should approach where? Receive sort of teaching. That dying Lama, dying spiritual leader, mentioned, now your teacher should be those Buddhist texts, not rely on person, but consider authentic books as your teacher. I think that's very good advice. Very good advice. Now, frankly speaking, there are some spiritual sort of teachers who are not very well qualified. Of course, I myself also questionable whether really qualified or not. So therefore, so there's no danger relying books. That also not one book, variety of book. That's important. I think nowadays, in English language or some foreign language, now more and more books on Buddhism or religion of East now coming. So that's, I think, best. Then once you yourself, you see, get sort of better awareness. Now, for example, Buddhism is concerned, better awareness about Buddhism, including the quality of proper teacher. Then you can examine some people who claim as a teacher, as a high Lama. You can examine. Or you can discuss. One strange story I had. Many years ago, one Tibetan Lama, high Lama, one day, one foreigner, visited him. And then, at the beginning, the Lama offered tea and looks very sort of leisure privilege.
Relaxed.
Seems no hurry. Then that foreigner starts some difficult questions. Then Lama said, "Oh, now today I have no time." You see, one Tibetan Lama, quite sharp tongue. I think 19th century, maybe 19th century, he sort of described some Tibetan Lama, long name, the qualification very short. And ancient Indian Lamas, Indian sort of teachers, short name, long qualification. It is quite true. So I just used to give you warning. Sometimes I want to tell you one story. One time in America, I met one American Buddhist. He told me he practiced Tibetan Buddhism. Then one day, his wife taken away by Tibetan Lama. Then he lost his faith. Now he no longer sort of faith towards Tibetan Buddhism. Then I told him, this is two things separate. Your own case, that Lama is a rubbish Lama. That Lama cannot sort of symbolize, right? Cannot be true Lama. At the real sort of teaching. So, then another occasion, one Englishman, his own Lama, get some sexual sex sort of scandal. So he told me once in England, he very much sort of sad, sort of worried about whole Buddhism. Then I told him, Buddhism lasts more than 2,500 years. During those periods, some rubbish Lama, there must be some rubbish Lama. They never sort of minimize Buddha Dharma. So his own case, his own Lama, some sort of sexual scandal, it's bad. But don't worry, may not much effect of Buddha Dharma. I mentioned like that. So you must be very careful. So best thing is relying on books, not person. So then eventually your own awareness or education better, then you will find truly reliable, qualified teacher. Then okay. Like that. So for the time being, I myself now, I have 17 lamas. Now most of them gone. Now few of them remain. These also become very old. So now I myself relying my teacher on books. I read. Whenever I have sufficient time, I always read. Even my breakfast, while my sort of mouth or teeth very busy, but my eye look some text. I usually do that. So week by week, I gain more knowledge and then translate into action. So that's really like teacher, right? Like that. So thank you very much. Now good night.
Your Holiness, on behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of the audience, and somehow also the Finnish people, I want to thank you for your very practical and encouraging words how to execute the power of compassion. And especially in this easy way to execute it in our daily life, as you put it so practically, but difficult. We also know your concern for young people, so we have invited to this occasion a few school classes to attend, so they can be the upcoming listeners to your wise words.
Oh, I see. You didn't inform me before. Then I have something to say. Those young students, please, one minute. I usually telling, my generation belongs to 20th century. These where is young student?
They are sitting up there.
Okay. Oh, yes, they are. So the younger generation, below 30, 20, you actually belongs to 21st century. So my century, 20th century, already gone. So the generation who belongs, you also belongs 20th century. So now we are ready to say bye-bye. So as I mentioned earlier, the future of humanity, I feel very hopeful. But that future sort of happy future, peaceful future, healthy world entirely depend on your generation. So the younger generation, you have the responsibility to build this new century, healthy century, peaceful century, compassionate century, more equal beings, right? Equality. So this is your sort of, also the responsibility. So when I meet some young student in America or in India, I often is telling them, our hope entirely on you. So the achievement through your effort, my generation may not see, but sometimes I jokingly telling them, me either from heaven or from hell, I will watch you. Whether so, in order to carry full responsibility, better world, happier world, more just world, you need vision and education. Education with warm-heartedness. Combine these two things, then vision, then self-confidence, enthusiasm. There is a Tibetan saying, 9-time failure, 9-time effort. You youth, according to my own experience, at young, so youth age, full of enthusiasm, but once we start our work, some obstacle happen, then due to lack of patience, too much impatience, and sometimes demoralize, withdraw. That's danger. You think, analyze your goal carefully. Once you sort of realize you can do that, then once you commit it, no matter what obstacle, you must carry your sort of your object, your goal. In spite many obstacles, you have to carry. So your self-confidence. For self-confidence, as I mentioned before, your warm-heartedness, think about interest for wider people, wider sort of that, also interest. Then you get the real sort of also self-confidence. If you think just oneself, me, then enthusiasm, very difficult to sustain. If you think well-being of other, the enthusiasm can retain, determination can be as hard as steel. Through that way, you can develop really happy world. Thank you.
There are a small, also a practice to tell about that you, Your Holiness, you are never asking for anything from anybody. So I just want to tell that we will dedicate to the Tibetan House Trust in London, who will onward it to Tibetans in need. It will be about 25% of all the incomes we have got from after covering the costs of this venue and everything.
Sorry. No, thank you very much. I really enjoy short visit here. Thank you very much. And also, Oh yes. I must thank organizer. You give me this opportunity. I very much appreciate, and also on all the translators. I very much appreciate. Thank you. Then the audience. Yes, oh, from Swiss. Marbe. Yes. Oh, wait there. Oh, the audience. You see, this morning and this session, both sort of, both occasions, you really pay serious attention. So I very much appreciate. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. 그래도 영화 쓰시네. 야, 인자. 뭐 되지 않아. nghe nó làm tiếng, nghe nó làm tiếng. Inja.